Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing something really focused. We're diving into the performance of your TikTok content, specifically the student loan and debt advice you're putting out there.
Yeah, you've shared a lot with us, the profile info, all your posts, and this really detailed analysis of how everything's performing.
Exactly. And our goal today is, well, it's to connect those two things, the analysis and the actual videos.
We want to get beyond just the numbers, right? To really understand what specific things in your videos are catching people's attention and driving that engagement.
Yeah, finding the why behind the stats. We've got this analysis, and it flags some key trends in how your audience is reacting.
So the task now is to look really closely at the videos you've made, the actual content, and see if we can pinpoint what's causing those trends.
Okay, let's dig in. The analysis points out several key areas. First up, keywords and phrases.
Right. It talks about frequently used terms, trending phrases, but also, importantly, language that encourages action.
And looking at your videos, we definitely see this, for instance, in the descriptions, the on-screen text.
Yeah.
You consistently use specific phrases like #StudentLoanLawyer.
And #MoneywiseLaw. That consistency is interesting.
It feels like more than just SEO, doesn't it? It's like you're carving out a niche.
Yeah, building authority in that specific space, it probably helps build a community that, trusts your advice.
And the analysis also mentioned action-driven language. We see that pretty clearly. Lots of your videos end with, "You know where to find me."
Right. It's consistent, maybe a bit indirect, but it tells people how to take the next step if they need more help.
But you also have more direct calls to actions sometimes, like that video about the public service loan forgiveness comments.
Oh yeah, where you told people exactly where to go, regulations.gov, and even gave suggestions.
Exactly. That felt very direct, guiding them on a specific action.
And you'd expect that kind of direct guidance to really boost engagement on that video, right? People like knowing exactly what to do.
Definitely. And it seems like your videos on timely updates, like when loan collections restarted or the legal fights over loan plans, they often use very specific language in the descriptions too.
Which likely helps people find exactly the information they're searching for in that moment. Very targeted.
Okay, next area. Emotional tone and sentiment analysis. Basically, how the feeling of your content affects the reaction.
Yeah, the vibe it gives off.
And looking through the videos, there's definitely a range. When you're sharing potentially bad news, like the talk about the Department of Education potentially closing an office.
Or the default collections restarting.
Right. The tone feels more urgent then. More, pay attention to this risk.
So how do those seem to perform? The analysis suggests understanding which emotions connect best is key. Do the urgent ones get more shares? Maybe?
That's a good question to track. And then you contrast that with videos explaining complex things, like the difference between forbearance and default.
Or the updates for married folks on IDR plans.
Yeah. The tone there often seems more reassuring, more like, okay, this is complicated, but here's how it works, offering clarity.
Trying to reduce that anxiety, maybe, which is huge with student loans.
Absolutely. So that ties into CTA effectiveness, calls to action. The analysis brings this up. We talked about, you know where to find me.
That recurring one.
But how effective is it compared to, say, a super direct prompt? Like in the video on the College Cost Reduction Act, you said, contact your representative.
That's a great point. They serve different functions, don't they? You know where to find me is maybe more about long-term connection, brand building.
While the direct contact your rep or go to this website is about immediate, specific action tied to that video's topic.
Exactly. It would be really interesting to compare the engagement metrics, maybe comments versus shares versus saves on videos with those different CTA styles. See if one drives a certain kind of interaction more.
Okay, moving to topic performance. This feels really central. What subjects are actually hitting home with your audience?
Looking at your posts, some themes just keep coming up again and again.
Definitely. Public service loan forgiveness, updates, explanations, all sorts of angles on that.
Right, like clarifying an executive order doesn't automatically kill the program, or explaining the buyback thing, or reacting to proposed rule changes. Lots in PSLF.
And income-driven repayment plans, too. Applying for them, the yearly recertification hassle, court decisions affecting plans like SAVE-E.
You've covered a lot of ground there. And also the impact of potential laws or government actions.
And it seems like these are the topics your audience is most hungry for. The analysis hints at this. and the video views often back it up.
Yeah, videos about possible PSLF changes or the nitty-gritty of IDR plans seem to get a lot of views, comments, saves. People are clearly looking for help navigating those specific things.
That video you did about the default collections, restarting that one, got a ton of traction, right?
Huge engagement on that. It shows a really strong audience need for that specific update.
So the takeaway seems pretty clear. PSLF, IDR, policy shifts.
Yeah.
These are your core pillars.
Absolutely. Knowing that is gold for planning future content. Stick close to what your audience consistently shows they care about.
Right. And lastly, the analysis mentions pacing and retention. Now, we don't have the direct minute-by-minute retention graphs,
No, not that specific data.
but it suggests thinking about how video length and maybe how dense the information is might affect how long people watch.
We have to kind of infer this, but it makes sense. A really short video, like a quick update that IDR applications are back online.
Probably gets watched all the way through more often, just because it's quick and easy.
Right. Versus maybe a longer video that goes super deep into, say, bankruptcy and student loans. That's complex.
Valuable information for sure, but maybe viewership drops off a bit over a longer runtime for something that heavy.
It's possible. We could look indirectly by comparing engagement metrics, views, likes, shares relative to the video length and the topic's complexity. Are shorter videos on complex topics getting disproportionately high shares, maybe? Or do longer deep dives get more saves?
Worth looking at those patterns. Okay, so wrapping all that observation together, the analysis offers some actionable recommendations. First one was about speech pattern optimizations.
Yeah, basically, look at what's working and lean into it. Since your clear, informative, direct style seems to do well,
Especially on those policy updates or program explanations like PSLF and IDR.
the recommendation is basically keep doing that. Maybe even double down on that clear, authoritative voice for those kinds of topics. Your audience seems to really value it.
Makes sense. Next is best emotional tone strategies.
So, based on what we discussed, it seems smart to keep using that reassuring, clarifying tone when you're breaking down complicated or worrying news about loans.
Like, okay, this is changing, but here's what it means for you.
Exactly. It helps manage anxiety, but
Right.
for really urgent news or pointing out potential negative stuff,
That direct, informative, maybe slightly urgent tone is probably still the way to go to grab attention quickly.
right, match the tone to the message and the desired audience reaction.
Okay, then CTA phrasing refinements. Calls to action again.
The thought here is, while you know where to find me, is great for consistency and branding.
Maybe don't rely on it exclusively.
Yeah. Consider testing out more direct, specific CTAs when you have a very clear goal for a video. If you want people to submit a comment or visit a specific link.
Ask them directly to do that thing. Tailor the ask.
Exactly. It might make those specific actions more likely to happen. Worth experimenting with.
And finally, ideal pacing and structure.
This loops back to that retention idea, based on those indirect clues.
If it seems like longer videos on really dense topics might be losing some viewers.
Maybe consider breaking those super complex subjects down. Turn one long video into a 2- or 3-part series of shorter, more digestible chunks.
Keep the value, but make it easier to absorb.
Could be a good strategy for maintaining attention on the really tough stuff.
Okay, so to kind of wrap up this deep dive, what we've really seen is this strong link, this connection between the specifics inside your TikTok videos.
The words you use, the feeling you convey, how clear your requests are, the topics you pick,
Even maybe how you structure the timing.
and how your audience actually responds. The views, the likes, the comments, the saves, it's all connected.
Understanding these patterns really gives you a much clearer roadmap, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You can make much more informed choices now about your content strategy moving forward. You know what topics hit hardest, what tones work best for different messages, how to potentially sharpen your CTAs.
So here's something to think about as we finish up. Imagine consistently applying these insights. Leaning into what works, tweaking the CTAs, maybe adjusting pacing for complex topics, while also still experimenting a bit.
How much could that amplify your reach, your impact?
Keep watching those engagement numbers closely as you try things out. See what new patterns pop up when you start putting these learnings into practice. That continued observation is key.